Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Boykinen. I am here in Boulder Creek, California. I am hanging out tonight with my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, what's happening, man?
Hakuna Matata, how's it going?
Hakuna Matata indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
That's what type of show it's going to be tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
uh, we wrapped our our chat last night, kind of going over the mess that the Israeli government's in right now.
Right. First time in its history.
So you wanna give a quick recap of that?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be a good idea. Essentially, Israeli legislators voted to dissolve parliament today because Israel just recently, and I believe it was about a month and a half ago, had elections for parliament, prime minister, etc. And Netanyahu had a very close race and won his fifth term. The Likud party, in which Netanyahu represents, won 35 of 120 seats. That gave them the largest portion, not the majority, but the largest portion in parliament. So they were the biggest party. And what happens there with the parliamentary system is that multiple parties have to come together to form a majority, which will they're in turn, or they're in lie or whatever, run parliament. And it's usually a really simple process because these parties, there's a multitude of parties. They all have left, right, center leanings, etc. And usually like brings together like, and they form a majority government and proceed to govern. In this case, though, Netanyahu set history, and they weren't able to come together and form a majority government. It's the first time in Israel's history that they haven't been able to form a government. And what that means is essentially in September, I believe it's September 17th, they'll have to hold elections again. Parliament, just as I said earlier, voted 74 to 45 to dissolve itself, which means that their government does not exist at this point. And any policies, anything that needs to be done, is on hold now until September after they do elections again. One of the only downsides of the parliamentary process, in my humble opinion. So, Netanyahu, there's a lot of different reasons. Steve went over a really solid and widely reported reason why Netanyahu couldn't form this particular government. And there's also some other sectors talking about the fact that Netanyahu, as a condition to form a majority government with these other parties, said that he wanted immunity from corruption charges that he's facing. To be quite specific, he's 3,500, even though he faces possible indictment in three, not just one corruption case, three corruption cases. So he was looking to get immunity from prosecution on those cases, and the other parties were like, no, that's not going to fly. So Steve could probably dive into what he discussed, the former defense minister and Netanyahu kind of clashing heads over conscription. And then, like I said, there's different segments of the media that are coming out and saying that he wanted immunity. The rest of them said, hell no. So now you have Israel's first ever failure to form a coalition government.
Which again is absolutely fascinating to me that the at least the reported issue is conscription.
Right.
Like that no matter what, the far right in Israel is going to have control of the government. The far right in Israel is very friendly with not only Donald Trump, but Chuck Schumer and fucking the Clintons, Joe Biden, who says on camera, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. And I'm a Zionist.
Right.
Fucking Kamala Harris, who just gave a speech
at the California Democratic.
No, it was for it was specifically to a Jewish organization. I don't know if it was AIPAC or who it was. Like, you can look it up, but she said she she went there to let it be known that she supports Zionism, not Israel, you get to be a country, don't do genocide. No, really, don't do genocide.
It was an APAC conference.
It was APAC? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But she went and just, you know, threw herself at him and her support. Um, no matter what the far right is going to win in Israel, the worst case scenario for anyone, for Benjamin Netanyahu, is that he doesn't get to be in charge of an apartheid state for more longer than he already has. It's not like it's not like the person who's running against him, that I'm aware of, is responsible for bringing the charges against him.
And here's to be quite specific. The religious parties that they were going to try to form the coalition government with, the Likud party, the religious parties do not want young ultra-Orthodox men to be forced to serve in the military and vehemently opposes the bill. But Avigdor Lieberman made the passage of the bill a condition for his secular nationalist party to join the government. So, interesting, I think. But here's my thing, and this is my personal opinion. I'm of the mind, I'm a strong supporter. I am Jewish heritage. I'm a strong supporter of the state of Israel. I'm adamantly opposed to the government of Israel. I'm adamantly opposed to what Israel has done to Palestine. I'm just absolutely astounded by their dealings with Syria, Lebanon, and other groups, kind of as an antagonist, not protecting themselves, but as an antagonist. So I'm a strong supporter of the Israeli state, Israeli people. Could do without the government completely. So having put that out there, what I'm really astounded by is kind of the Trump effect in Israel playing out. Netanyahu is facing 3 different cases of corruption charges, and these other parties are willing to sign off on the fact that he is their de facto leader and be okay with it when this guy is a criminal on not just for the 3 different charges, war crimes, etc. This guy is a criminal, and that these other parties are willing to sign off and say, yeah, you could run the government as prime minister. That is the part to me. It's just, I understand our game is dirty. I understand politics is dirty, and the word integrity and honesty and stuff like that isn't really synonymous with politics. But at what point do you stop and go, this just looks bad? This is a bad look. We're going to have you as our leader. You know what I mean?
I do, and if you've noticed, at least for establishment Democrats, it's suddenly, since the beginning of this year, been okay to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu's government in Israel.
Right.
That and Beto O'Rourke, I think he called Benjamin Netanyahu a racist. So Bernie Sanders had to run out and be like, "Yep, he's a racist."
But that's because of the left. That's
know.
because of outlets like ourselves and other independent media, and those on the left saying, "Wait a minute, do you not witness what this man and this government is doing to people? Do you
Well,
not
they
see
voted
that?"
to become an apartheid state, Jason. That was something that they did collectively as a nation. But aside from that, like, there's leaked tape of Benjamin Netanyahu bragging that Trump was in his pocket, that Trump was his puppet. There's article after article that Whitney Webb and other people have put together for Mint Press, Consortium, and outlets like that detail just how closely tied Donald Trump is to Benjamin Netanyahu in terms of like how many favors the Trump administration has done for that regime
Right.
in particular. And so it's okay now, and it helps the Democrats to come out and be like, I stand with Israel, but Bibi's a dick. You know, they can cozy up to the further right wing guy, and 99% of America won't notice.
Right.
They won't know.
Right.
They won't know that a hang up is over conscription,
Right.
which Benny Gantz favors.
Right. But see, at the end of the day, that's also a huge failure. I don't know if it's of people's curiosity of what's happening in the world. Like, my concentration was international relations, so this is the thing I get off on. I like paying attention to foreign governments. I like to see what's going to happen a year from now, 5 years from now, so on and so forth. So for me, this is kind of, normal. So I don't know to others why Americans aren't paying attention to these hotspots and paying attention to the governments that run them and what the people are looking at from their perspective and what pushes and motivates them to vote Likud. I mean, being terrified of being killed is the only reason why I could see the Likud party winning anywhere on the face of the planet, playing off of fear, playing off of xenophobia, playing off of racism. These are the only ways I could see the Likud party being a majority government in anywhere on the face of the planet.
But we've watched a march towards far right wing authoritarian regimes take place all over Europe. Marie Le Pen almost won in France, only won because Macron made so many promises to so many people that he immediately broke.
But he's the French Obama. You can't be mean about
Exactly.
Macron. You can't be mean about Macron. He's the French
That's
Obama.
a great point. That's a great point. Theresa May. Greece.
A caveat with Theresa May. I legitimately don't think she's a right winger in the sense that we're talking about the far right. I think she's an opportunist scumbag who jumps on whatever Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson say. I don't think she's had an original thought in her life.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue that by any means. Because
like Nigel Farage,
you don't get to that position if you're not a good actor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, Tony Blair was a bad actor, and that's why he was so blatantly fucking called out for his bullshit. What's the other guy's name? The guy that was after him?
David Cameron.
David Cameron, even worse.
But see, then you get somebody like Jeremy Corbyn coming in there, and yeah, he's got his issues. I'm not in love with the guy, but he's a far better choice from Labor than anybody else that's out there. He speaks more to the issues that people are facing than a Theresa May or the Tories or the Democratic Socialists or anything else.
Oh, I agree, and I understand. Like, the Lib Dems in England are what our Democrats would be if this wasn't a fucking cartoon.
Right.
And then there would be a blue dog caucus that was even further to the right, and then that would be its own party, and there would be all these right-wing parties, and there would kind of be like 18 to 27 members of Congress in a center party, and then that would kind of be it for where we're at right now. But
the Scottish National Party, which is a pretty far right-leaning freaking party, and was the only reason why Theresa May's government was able to actually form a majority during the Brexit chaos and stupidity. So, I mean, England is still baffling to me. The United Kingdom is totally off the rails. First off, to vote for Brexit was stupid. Secondly, listening to these Farage, Boris Johnson, SNP, Tories, and everything else, and constantly voting them back into power. And it would be hypocritical if I didn't say that it happens in America too. I'm not saying America's superior. I'm just saying with the knowledge and the forward thinkingness that is synonymous with the people of Britain, you wouldn't think that these issues and these parties would have constant success in fucking up not only Europe, not only themselves, but the rest of the world.
It's almost like the stereotypical image of the British is marketing, and not necessarily, the way it actually is when you're on the ground there.
Right.
We've got I don't know if you saw this or not, but Lockheed Martin put out a tweet today pointing out that their female CEO was seated at the table at the state dinner or the state visit with Theresa May and Trump.
Right. That was yesterday, right?
Or this morning or some shit like that.
No, the dinner. Yeah, the dinner. Or whatever.
No, not the dinner. Trump went to 10 Downing Street for a heads of state.
Oh, okay.
Visit.
So what the hell was she doing at the table?
representing both parties at the table's bosses, I would imagine,
Yeah,
taking notes for corporate.
that's the
Are
same
we
one
going
that
to
Corbyn
bomb
took out.
Iran, or does it behoove us and Israel to keep it right on the brink of war?
Right.
Um, and that is one of the Mint Press articles that I pulled up.
Yeah, let's dabble into that because that is something that needs to be discussed. The Israeli situation, just to summarize it, is FUBAR. The Israeli people need to stop voting based off of fear. They need to vote for solutions. The Likud party and the right-leaning parties in that country are not a solution. They are perpetuating the problem. They're continuing the problem. They're making the problem worse. And I think as soon as they wake up to that reality, they'll be able to maybe move forward, have a real two-state solution to end the apartheid state, to give Palestinians the dignity that they deserve in having their own state.
And I want to point out that what I'm going to read is an article from December of last year, but it lays out where's the blah blah blah. Okay, this was a statement after the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. He said the Mideast is a dangerous, rough part of the world, and that Saudi Arabia has been a great ally, adding that without them, Israel would be in a lot more trouble, and we need to have a counterbalance to Iran. That is the sitting president of the United States saying to the Washington Post, our Mideast foreign policy is guided by Israel.
Here's my question. Do we not realize that Saudi Arabia as an actor is the biggest antagonist of Iran? Those two countries, Iran and Saudi Arabia, absolutely despise each other. Hence why Yemen is a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. You're looking at a situation in which if you need to, quote unquote, box Iran in, you've got Israel, you've got Saudi Arabia.
We've got
have
84
Iraq under
military
Saddam Hussein.
bases around the country, all
Right.
around the country, and
Right.
a carrier group right out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. But here's my question.
That's
And I think,
boxed in.
why are we putting all of our chips onto how Israel guides Mideast policy? It's just going, under this government, it's just going to make it worse. It's just going to antagonize. It's just going to create more devastation, more death, more destruction. They haven't had a solid foreign policy in the Mideast ever. So why are we continuing this bullshit? I don't understand.
So I'm glad you asked.
Well, thank you.
Let me let me try and find the.
It's almost like we set it up.
So this is the Mint Press article that I was referring to
author?
earlier. This is Miko Peled. U.S. Special Representative for Iran Brian Hook said recently the United States will respond with military force if its interests are attacked by Iran, because that's how he pronounces it.
Iran. Not Iran, but Iran.
Right. So here's Miko laying out why this is not in the interest for either country. Notwithstanding the rhetoric coming from Washington, where the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State have been busy pushing for war, the U.S. is not prepared to pay the consequences for attacking Iran. While it is hard to dispute that the U.S. has superior military strength and, should it decide to do so, can destroy Tehran, there is more to war than just sheer military power, and the same can be said for Israel. Really, the overall point of the article Both Israeli and U.S. leaders are given reports of the estimate the body count in case of a war. It is not unlikely that the leaders of both countries have seen these reports and fear the consequences of all-out war with Iran. Um, what it comes down to is that stoking the fears of war permanently is a better payoff for both Israel and the U.S. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep up pressure to fucking um, oust John Bolton or anybody else connected to that administration. That administration and any administration that would fucking replace it, who abides by American foreign policy dictated by acquisition of natural resources.
Well, let me state unequivocally that I am not for Iran's government. I'm not for a theocracy. I'm an atheist. Anything that religion touches turns to shit. So I prefer governments not running with theocracy. So when I say this, it's not in support of the tyrannical government in Iran. I look at it as this: the people of Iran have suffered, not only with their government, but crippling sanctions. They are a vibrant country. They have so much to offer the world. And this constant cloud of war that the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia have created over the last 40 years, 50 years, has really crippled the people of that country. And I don't understand if the policy's been a failure for almost half a century, like the Cuban policy. Why would you continue it? Why would you push it? The people of Iran aren't the problem. Killing them isn't the problem.
Well,
And the ways we've gone about this is horribly wrong.
less than a decade into Israel becoming a nation state, the U.S. intelligence community had fucking deposed the legitimate government in Iran, whether or not you agreed with it.
Because
but
it was
that was what,
allegedly
53,
it was leaning
54?
socialist.
Yeah.
They were forward thinking. The people of Iran were forward thinking at that time to elect a socialist government. And the United States said, oh, hell no. They put in a Shah that caused poverty to become rampant. Education was just not there. The people of Iran were suffering because they had a capitalist at the helm that the United States approved.
Overthrowing the Shah, though, was 79. I'm talking about the first time in like 54.
Isn't that when they introduced the concept of the Shah?
Oh, that's who they replaced.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. They replaced the socialist leader who was introducing.
Sorry, man.
Right. That's why I was like confused. I was like, he was the Shah for about 25 years before he was thrown out.
But yeah, so I mean, you can for the U.S. to still try and push this line, like Iran is its own unique threat. We made them everything that they are.
I was watching The West Wing. I know everybody can laugh, but it's kind of like that wet dream fantasy of what a government could be if a bunch of intellectuals got together and ran it. But they had an episode in which they were talking about they were doing a backdoor diplomacy about the Iranian nuclear, because I mean, obviously this was the early 2000s, so the nuclear proliferation of Iran is new. It didn't happen just yesterday, and they were talking about, from the Iranian standpoint, the reason why they have the bomb. It's not that they want to, because I believe it goes against their edict by the Ayatollah to possess nuclear weapons. That's neither here nor there. But it was in direct defense of the United States and Israel, both who have nuclear weapons and both who have vastly superior militaries. They needed a way to defend themselves. And when it was laid out the way it was, it didn't make me go completely, aw shucks, I feel bad for the theocracy there. But it did wake me up and go, that's a good point. They feel like they're under constant attack from the West. And it's not just paranoia, it's been happening since, like Steve said, the 1950s. These people have been they've been pushed into a corner and stuck in that corner, so they're going to react accordingly. So when we talk about Iranian nuclear proliferation, with such, animosity, let's take a second and think about, hey, why would they feel they need to possess these weapons? Let's take a second and try to analyze that. I know I'm a
I
sucker for
fucking
Sorkin, man. He writes well.
I don't know if you remember this or not. It was at one of the correspondence dinners, but like Obama had a one-liner that was like, "I'm not here to live out your Aaron Sorkin liberal fantasy," and it was like real early on in his presidency, and like I remember hearing that, being like, "I fucking told you guys," you know.
But here's the thing. Do you remember in the election, the biggest thing in 2008 was that he was allegedly the fourth most liberal senator, even though he was only in for 2 years. You can't really judge a body of work for a senator in 2 years, but they kept on pushing the fact that he's the fourth most liberal. He's the fourth most progressive. He's definitely left of center, blah, 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 blah. That was the biggest thing that they pushed. And so that would get progressives and those of us on the left to bite the bullshit and go vote for him and go campaign, etc. Come to find out, he's just a Goldman Sachs tool. I mean, that's it. He's a lackey. Who knew? We did in 2012, but you know.
I did in 2008. I got fired for it.
Right.
I got fired and blacklisted for knowing that shit and saying it out loud, like at an outlet that I didn't realize was as part of the problem as they were.
Right.
And
but
fuck you, Chris.
That's the thing, though. We were all duped between 2005 and 2008 when it came to those outlets, because they talked a really good game, but when it came down to actual policy, it was centrism, it was neoliberalism, it was center right, it was right. It was all about attacking Bush at the time, and they did it really well. Kind of like what they're trying to do now with Trump. And again, I'm anti-Bush and I'm anti-Trump. But this almost repeat of the attacks, the methodology, the constant criticism and things of that nature of things that aren't relevant, as opposed to the policies that if we actually attack these people on would be relevant. Because Trump deserves to have things come after him. Bush deserved to have people coming after him. It's not that I'm saying feel bad for them, but we're focusing on all the stupid shit between those two presidencies and not focusing on the things that matter and are real.
Because if we do, it exposes the fucking entire scam.
Then the people should demand it, though, regardless.
I understand that. That's kind of what we're doing here.
Right.
We're trying to eventually connect to more people who may not already have this
smash that like button,
this information. But I mean, that's something that you can do in your own right every time you leave your house.
Right.
You know, it's rough. Like if you're like the only person in your town who's even halfway aware of what's going on, this is a bit like here. There's a pocket of people that are receptive to that kind of information, less than you would think, but we have been getting the shit gentrified out of us for over a decade now, and it wasn't exactly like a bastion of anything other than NPR liberals who want you to sit with your hands politely folded on your lap during the Todd Snyder show, or fucking wouldn't call the cops on you for fucking three of your fucking rough looking friends having a cookout in public.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And as a former listener of NPR, then went over to Pacifica Radio, thankfully. But even they, it's sadly, it was more like, have polite opposition and then accept it when it doesn't work your way. I never understood NPR. I really, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're Koch funded, they're Alphabet Incorporated funded. They're underwritten by which Google's parent company and Eric Schmidt's separate family foundation underwrites them, and like all of these people who are 100% the problem supply NPR with the lion's share of its funds. Of course, they're going, like, on the off chance that you hear a genuine anti-war person on NPR, it's one segment for 12 minutes that day, and they never air it again.
And that they're pointing out, they're criticizing the position the person holds in some capacity. But the only thing I liked out of NPR at the end was "Wait, wait, don't tell me." That's about it. That was the only thing I enjoyed on the whole damn thing.
I thought that after Garrison Keillor got fired at 176 years old for groping, that they should come out with a brand new show with a Gary Keillor lookalike that was "Wait, wait, don't grope me," and they could market the shit out of that. They could do it live from Al Franken's cousin's house in Minnesota.
I love it. I love it.
I was for that. I love the tiny desk concerts that they put on.
Right.
I love that there's a whole series of hip hop legends, dude, that are with live bands and having a fucking blast. And it's great, dude. Like, there's great energy in it. But I don't like that they are, as Ron Placone says, nice, polite Republicans.
Yeah.
When it's time to not progressive radio, whatever, you know.
You were paying attention to Twitter, weren't you? Was it Nira, our old friend Nira, who came out and was talking about? No, it was Joe Lockhart bashing progressives for not being team players.
I saw that tangentially. I don't think I participated, but I know a couple people who did.
I did, and it got pretty popular when I was talking about head in the sand, and that's kind of what I feel the NPRs, the MSNBCs. I don't think that they're involuntarily having. I think they put their head in the sand for the almighty dollar, and they wanted views. They want people to show up, ratings, etc. And so they took a more Republican-light approach. And this hypocrisy and attack. If we had some progressive outlets, some true progressive outlets like ourselves and other independent media who bash Trump, go to the mainstream, it would cause heads to explode. Because we'd be able to dissect the Democrats, the Republicans. We'd be able to dissect and show exactly where Trump's wrong, where Pelosi's wrong, where Schumer's wrong, where Mitch McConnell's wrong, the crimes that they've committed, the errors of both parties over the last 150 to 200 years. And at the end of the day, we'd be able to assess that it's not just Trump that's a problem. We shouldn't resist just Trump. We should resist the duopoly. We should resist these elitist, wealthy, dumb motherfuckers that run our government. That's what we should be resisting when it comes to it at the end of the day. And if we had real progressive socialist talking heads that were seen by a wider audience, I really feel like this country would end the stupidity that is this current system of government, like tomorrow.
I agree. I know what happens when you stick your neck out a little bit too far and you end up tucked away somewhere with like institutional security where you're allowed to make a certain amount of noise, or you get fucking sent off to oblivion. And I can't wait. I can't.
That's us.
To find out which one it is.
Death threats. Is that the first step when you get death threats?
I don't know, man. How many years have you not gotten a death threat now?
Fuck, it's been a minute. I've gone death threat free. I don't think it's been. I think for the last 8 years, I've had at least 3 or 4. I know you've had your share. I know you've had your share. But that's the thing.
Honestly, I mean, even with like the ability to track my location via the device I'm using, it's still pretty tough to get here, and I can hear you coming. You know,
right?
But
I'm not hard to find. But not at the end of the day. That's what we've got boiled down to, is when people like ourselves speak out, and we're not making a fuck ton of money. We're not making, any awards for viewers or anything else. We're not doing this for the wrong reasons. We're doing this to inform. And we still have people threaten to take our lives, our families' lives. We have people that come out and say, if we see you in public, you're fucking dead. Things of that nature. You try to share the truth with people. You try to relay to people, hey, this is fucked up. Here's the analysis. Here's where we got the numbers from. Here's where we got the information from. Let's do something about it. This could go across the political spectrum. It doesn't have to necessarily be a right or left leaning thing. We can change the system to benefit us if you just stop paying attention to the morons in the mainstream media, the propaganda that our government pushes out, and demand transparency in our government. If you just did those simple things and actually demanded it, we might have an end to homelessness, poverty, gentrification, both cultural and institutional racism, sexism. I mean, there would be so many things we'd be able to attack as a people and end if you just stop paying attention to the idiots and talking heads on your ABCs, NBCs, CBSs, MSNBCs, Fox Newses, so on and so forth. Just wake the fuck up. Independent media is out here for a reason. We're not doing this because we're bored. It's not a hobby.
Well, and what's important really is that, like, we hold up all of the independent media that's doing good work when they do good work, and like, don't just encourage people to share this show, but like everybody that you go to for content, fucking talk about them to people, fucking whatever outlets you read, fuck, share that shit far and wide. I've been talking a lot lately about, like, it's going to be necessary to go lower tech and soon, along with all this shit that we're doing. But like any small little act of subversion, there's people now that are just randomly putting up messages about Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning, like, by police stations and high traffic areas and fucking close to shopping centers and stuff like that. And that's great. Like, please go fucking do that shit. If you're in a smaller town on a campus or in an area where, like, people who look like they might pick up a fucking magazine would pick up a magazine, fucking go low tech and print up some old school zines.
Right.
Or fucking get your weird fucking freaky friends and their weird freaky art in it. You know you got them. You know you do.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's going to take not only independent media. We can only do so much. We can bring you the truth. We can bring you facts. We can bring you our sources where we found this information. We can't force you to educate yourself or stand up for yourself. That's going to be up to something that you do within yourself, and you go, I'm tired of this shit. I want to be right about this shit. I want to help my kids. I want to help my neighbors. I want to help my friends. I want to help my community. I got to stand up and do something. And that's where we're getting to at this point, because like Steve said, it's going to get to a point where people of the 99%, we spend half the year censored by Facebook, not violating anything, because I still have all the pictures in which Facebook found no reason to block me. They come back and tell me, yeah, you didn't violate any of our policies. But that's 2 weeks after I filed the appeal. And you've already banned me for 2 weeks. So at the end of that, you tell me I've done nothing wrong, but you kept me quiet for 2 weeks. I spent half a year in Facebook jail for doing nothing other than relaying to people facts. Nothing conspiracy theory. I source all my information. I'm able to cite it properly. And none of it is slanderous in nature outside of facts. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to start shutting down things like what Steve and I are doing, what Ron Placone, what Jimmy Dore, what other people are out there doing, Lee Camp, a multitude of Mint Press. There's going to be all these other Nico House, you name it, any of the popular types.
Well, they smeared Nico as a conspiracy theorist, and whatever else they leveled at him in an attempt to get at Tulsi. Look, man, I've watched Nico's show. if he's a conspiracy theorist, he's not letting you know on his show. He's not. All right.
Well, by
Like,
going conspiracy theory, by anything that we say, it automatically debunks us. It makes us look less than credible. It makes us look like we're wearing tinfoil hats when all the evidence is right there for you to click
I
and look
really
at it,
don't
and
think
it's
that
from the
word has much
mainstream.
meaning to anyone under 35.
Uh, I don't
If
know, man.
you've grown up with the internet, if you've grown up with YouTube getting fucking your news, your jokes, your whatever, all your,
Right.
from that, dude, you are desensitized to the word conspiracy theory, in my opinion. I could be wrong about that, but
Yeah.
it's my feeling.
Yeah.
Um, that it only has weight with people like 40 and up, 35 and up, kind of, and generationally more.
But look who's running the media at this point. It's those
Yeah.
geriatric fucks. Who's running our government? Geriatric fucks.
Well,
So I mean, they kind of
and
have the
intelligence agencies and manufacturers of weapons of war and the Department of Defense and fucking the Pentagon. Like, that's who's running our media and
everybody who has
government.
power is a geriatric fuck. So yeah, they're going to still use that terminology. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to is they're afraid of us in the independent media. They're afraid that we are getting better at what we do, getting better at providing facts, doing their jobs better, putting ourselves at risk to ensure that the truth is exposed in whatever capacity that we can and get critical thought to start, taking over the American population. It's something that we need support from viewers. We need the people to come in and not necessarily support just us as individuals, but to hear what we have to say, do a little bit of research yourself, and go, oh, fuck, this isn't good. Did you hear about, I think it was yesterday, that it was predicted that by 2050, human civilization will cease to exist because of environmental, war, and every other policies that we're carrying out as a species today?
I missed that, but that 2050 is when Joe Biden wants to cut all carbon emissions.
Uh,
That's helping,
nice. Let me give you
helping,
guys
helping Joe. You're helping.
fucking Joe Biden. Okay, so here we go. And this is from. Okay, well, this is from Pirates Cove. I wanted to find a better source, but you know what? Screw it. Pirates Cove, you're getting a shout out. Tom Nelson, climate change could end human civilization by 2050. This is a report, and I'm getting this report from the New York Post. Even better. I don't know which one was worse, Pirates Cove or New York Post. Let's see.
Hey man,
Harrowing
if
new
Rupert Murdoch is saying that civilization is going to end by 2050, he's betting that it's going to end by 2030.
A harrowing new climate change report warns we may be on the way to extinction, claiming there is a high likelihood human civilization will come to an end by 2050 unless action is taken on greenhouse gas emissions. The dire paper, which predicts a biblical like scenario of devastating floods, drought, famine, and a breakdown in international order, has been endorsed by the former chief of Australia's military. It was published May 30th by the Australian think tank, the Breakthrough National Center for Climate Restoration, and it calls for a new approach to climate change and paints a bleak picture of the world in 30 years if nothing is done to combat greenhouse emissions. And we have Trump rolling back all environmental protections that have been instituted in the last 10 years. So just throwing it out there. India's doing the same thing. China's doing the same. China's never been known as a protector of the environment, and they're rolling back their minimal limitations on corporations producing waste and clogging up the air, etc. Um, we're already. I don't know if we're just a suicidal species. If we like to try to dare fate or death
No,
or
we're
whatever.
homicidal. That should be clear. A handful of people with a fuck ton of power are homicidal, sociopathic fucks.
As a quote unquote, as a person with ASPD,
I know.
I don't want them lumped in. uh, the reality is, and you're 100% right. I wouldn't argue that point. At what point all this evidence has been pushed forward to every person with an internet connection. To those who don't have an internet connection, I don't blame you. I hope you have some other form of ability to read or watch and disseminate information. But there is beyond a mountain, there's a
Like a library.
planet of information that has been offered to tell people, if you don't fucking do something now, we're all going to die. Your kids are going to die. My daughter's 5. By 2050, she will be old enough to become president of the United States. She will be young. I will be looking at the tail end of my life if cancer hasn't killed me or some homicidal, lunatic out there. I'll be toward the end of my life. It's not going to make too much difference to me, other than the fact that my daughter will be 35. Any kids that you have within the last 5 years to now will be adults, not old adults, young adults. We're talking about the end of human civilization. So if you want your kids to survive, forget grandkids that aren't even a part of the picture. If you look at your child and go, I want you to live, then get off your ass and do something. Because all the evidence is right there showing that on an environmental standpoint, it's gone beyond catastrophe. It's gone beyond disaster. We're talking apocalypse at this time. Some real end of time scenario shit. And you can do something about it now by making demands, by telling corporations, don't buy their shit. Don't buy the shit that fucking they kick out. Demand that Congress get serious on real change and giving the EPA and other organizations real teeth to prosecute those that violate simple environmental. Let's get away from carbon emissions. Let's go toward green energy. Let's focus on the things that need to be focused on, rather than playing this dick around game of, oh, it's capitalism, we have to accept it, otherwise we're all going to go poor and die. It's not true. Do you want to die because the environment's turned on you, or do you want to make a difference for your kids? If you don't care about yourself, I hope you care about the child or children that you possess. Think about it from that perspective.
Quick counterpoint.
Please.
I don't think any of this is going to be accomplished through the legislative process whatsoever. And I think that becoming activated within your own community to make it as sustainable as humanly possible and bypass the legislative process altogether if you can is probably what it's going to take on a nationwide level. And as our communities work towards sustainability in the face of government and corporate measures, as opposed to with, that's going to create a situation where management and government will be forced to say, we need you to stop doing the right thing without us getting a cut.
But here's my thing, and it's not necessarily a counterpoint to that. How much, if the entire population of the country were to take that approach, that'd be fantastic. Because that would then be able to counter what multinationals and corporations are doing. They're continuing on this destructive course, and they'll do it with or without us. So that's the only reason why I say bring the legislative process in. Hang these bastards in the public square if they violate these. I don't care what type of punishment you put on these bastards at the corporate level for continuing to try to kill us, essentially. Lead in our waters, carcinogens in the soil, polluting the air, etc. You're 100% right when it says that at the community level we need to start becoming a lot more greener, if you will. And I don't disagree with that at all. But bypassing the legislative process limits us because there's only so much we can do. And not everybody in the population is going to think along those lines of, how can I be more green? How can I, stop?
You're right. And I will amend that to, if you think you can help best by overtaking the legislative process, by all means do so. But do so from the point of, you have view me as a candidate as a traditional union representative of the people, in that my job here is to say, we're going to talk about these specific demands, or me and the boys are going to drag you outside and curb stomp you to death in front of your friends and family.
I support that 300%. In fact, I'd like to throw my hat in as a candidate for the party that has that. I'm in.
They can
Right?
play
I said
it.
I would never run for office, but if I can be involved with the party that has that in its core, I'm in 100%. Curb stomping and protecting the environment, those are two things I can get behind. Just straight up.
You know, there's a beer called Earth Thirst, and it's got like protectors up in it. Are you aware of Earth First as an eco terrorist organization? Because I did.
No, but I'm looking up this delightful group now.
Okay, but
Earth
yeah, I
First.
was like, what fucking crass commercialism is that, man? These guys were labeled eco terrorists, and now there's a beer that's like a pun on their name. It's like Killer Mike and his Cripicola.
Out of Humboldt?
I mean, what?
Oh, sweet baby Christ. All right. Pradeski, Togol, Jitu, Hari, Ini. I don't speak any Cyrillic language. Let's translate.
I will
Thank
absolutely
you.
do that, Mystery.
Can't
I'm reading.
translate it.
I'm reading the comments while you're doing stuff. Hey, I would like to welcome everybody to the stream. If you're joining us recently, man, share it up if you're so inclined. If you smoke, you're down to smoke with me. If you drink, you're down to drink while I smoke.
We got any comments telling us that we're horrible, evil people and need to be eliminated?
I have homework. I have to watch the channel Singularity U Canada and the recent video webinar AI and Human-like Bodies, Technologies and Implications. I enjoy homework. I do from time to time. From time to time. You had I want to get to the Finland thing. I do.
Oh yeah.
We were
Real quick though. Real quick.
So like I gotta drive by the homeless zoo in Santa Cruz every time I go down there. And it's fucking heartbreaking. But Finland went at it in like a really fucking weird way. And they went, you know, maybe instead of making these people get their shit together before they can have a place of their own, we'll just give them a place of their own as a base that they can always come to, and they can have somewhere to be stable and then get their shit together. And they got the apartment like unconditionally. And if they get a job and they can pay some rent, they pay some rent. Maybe.
Well, here's from The Guardian. A recent report by the Communities and Local Government Committee on Homelessness pointed out that the Housing First model appears to have had a positive impact in Finland. From 2008 to 2014, the number of people who were long-term homeless decreased by approximately 1,200, and homelessness continues to decrease. However, the conclusion of the committee is puzzling. We are cautious about investing further in Housing First in England because of the severity of England's homelessness challenge and the scarcity of funding and of social housing. This certainly requires some further comments. The Housing First model is quite simple. When people are homeless, you give them housing first, a stable home. Rather than progressing them through the several levels of temporary and transitional accommodation, the idea stems from the belief that people who are homeless and need a home and other issues that may cause them to be at risk of homelessness can be addressed once they are in stable housing. Homeless people aren't told they must conquer their addictions or secure a job before being given a home. Instead, it is accepted that having a home can make solving health and social problems that much easier.
Who the fuck knew?
Oh, I'm having a stroke. My brain is totally. Everyone who is an expert in homelessness, and I definitely don't consider myself that in any capacity. I did do a homeless project last year. And one of the biggest things I kept on hearing from experts in this field is they don't have a home address in which to put down for a job. And it sounds really stupid. But in fact, that limits their ability to get a job so that they can get themselves out of the situation. So why not give them that permanent address, a place of their own, in which they can start battling their addictions, seeking help for their mental health issues, getting a job, taking care of the things in life that they need to take care of. Because at the end of the day, if you leave them to stay in the streets, what on what planet is anyone going to hire them? Where are they going to have the access to mental health? Where are they going to have the access to healthcare in any other capacity? It's stupid. And this is so simple that it's stupid. Give them a
Well,
home
and
first.
there's more to that, Jay. There's, you know, that there's waiting 6 hours to take a shower and then going to sleep outside again.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so you better fucking schedule your job interview or your work around when you have access to running water to wash your ass. You've got to have clean clothes ahead of time.
Right. And
You've got to secure those clean clothes in a bag that doesn't smell like mildew. That because you've been fucking camping outdoors for however long. Like there's all kinds of additional hurdles that are attached to not having an address, and it's not simply because if you don't have a physical location on an application, most people just toss them. Like it goes beyond that. Like even if you get a call back, there's so many more obstacles to pass in fucking society that people aren't, you know, considering when they have fucking pie in the sky ideas about what to do about the homeless that aren't give them a fucking place to live so they can sort their shit out.
Right. No disagreement whatsoever. And did you know that Finland is the only European country where homelessness has decreased in recent years? The rest of the continent, it's increased. Yet, oddly enough, in Finland, making sure that these people have a home has somehow, and I don't know if this is magic or some type of wizard work, but it's decreased the homeless population. I don't know. That's some complicated math. I don't know.
This is wizard's work.
Fuck.
Fucking,
Harry
if
Potter
you
shit
give
going right
people a home, it reduces homelessness. You say? I wanted to touch on that for a couple of reasons because one, there's 5 empty homes for every homeless person in the U.S. We could do this, and there would still be 4 empty homes for every homeless person in the U.S.
Well, I proposed this with California with Jerry Brown as he was governor. I proposed a program in which if houses went 18 months without being sold, that the state of California could come in and make a fair value offer on the place, buy it, and provide it as a home for a homeless person within the state of California. But that didn't go very far, sadly enough. I thought it was fair for the homeowner who was selling the house. I thought it was fair for the state of California. And I thought it was even more fair for the individual needing the home or the family that needs the home because there are homeless children and homeless families. Let's be real here. It's not just a bunch of guys with beards who stink. This is happening to people of all ages, all colors, all sexual orientations, everybody. Homelessness is a real issue. And in the state of California alone, we could solve it relatively easy by using the Finnish program. But again, when I proposed it to Jerry Brown's office and I proposed it to a couple of other individuals who are representatives of the state of California, it was a lot of, oh, that's a really good idea. That is a super good idea. And then nothing.
That makes a lot of sense. And Chris Walker in the chat too points out the amount of trailers that are on the street in Silicon Valley in general. Like so they're going nuts trying to rewrite their city ordinances to make sure that nobody can sleep in anything outdoors or park without paying or the constant commoditization of all available space and punishment for not being able to survive when your dollar is worth less and less every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
Punishment
San Francisco. San Francisco used to be looked at as the far left epicenter of California. Now it's become a corporatist haven in which they ran the homeless out. And they've all gone to Oakland. Go down on 3rd Street. Go down on any of the numerical streets in Oakland, and you can see tents on the sidewalk, trailers that are on the side of the road. It's horrible. We're down in LA, and I'm going through the art district down by 7th Street and everything else. And if you just look down the street, on any given street, you're going to find the tents on the sidewalk. You're going to find the freaking trailers. In Compton, when I was walking through there, don't ask me why I was walking through Compton because I'm so hood. I was walking to a 7-Eleven there, and I found 6 trailers down one side of the road, down by Aurora and something else. And then on the other side, it was nothing but tents on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, these people,
Santa Cruz.
these people are left to die. Nobody cares. You know, it's baffling to me as a Christian nation, where we try to be Christ-like, if I'm not mistaken, that's the whole term of Christianity. If we're trying to be Christ-like, how are we allowing this to occur? And when people like myself, I'm not afraid to pat myself on the back here, when people like myself and others propose things that is fair for everybody involved and eliminates the homeless problem, and the Finnish model proves that we're right, why aren't we instituting it? What in the actual fuck?
Well, because that sounds an awful lot like socialism, Jason. I believe that's the right answer for America. You
Socialism, you say?
You got pushback from Governor Moonbeam on that. All right, so Gavin Newsom is nothing if not a younger
version,
further to the right, more corporate friendly, but definitely wants his state of California to get the biggest cut of management's pie, and doesn't give a fuck how that affects us lowly fucking, renters, right?
Yeah, it's socioeconomic discrimination. It's becoming the most widely available, whether they use your credit score to deny you a home, a car, whatever, or you happen to be in this economic bracket.
They can run your credit score.
Socioeconomic discrimination is very real. It's becoming the force in neoliberal economics, and it's allowed. You're discriminating people off their economic status in which they were put there by that same economy. So it's a downward spiral. There's nothing good that can come from it.
Well, there's short-term profit for a portion of the populace at the expense of everyone else, and that seems to be well, not only that, but the ideal situation as marketed.
Right.
80% of the country can't afford $1,000 emergency. We're all living paycheck to paycheck. There's 20% of the country that is the most visible throughout every form of media. Because you have to keep that illusion going, just like you have to keep George Carlin's illusion of choice going, and where you get 31 flavors of ice cream, but 2 political parties that are one political party.
Let's see, how much debt does the U.S. have?
22 trillion.
22 trillion individually, though, because this is something you've touched on in the past. We've become more credit dependent as a nation. Rather than being flush with cash to pay for things, we've had to depend as a people more on credit to buy basic shit, not just cars and houses. I'm talking about being able to feed your families or pay for medical bills. Let's see. National debt tops 18 trillion. Fuck you, Forbes. And that was in 2015.
Are you trying to find out how much debt each household carries?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now for every age demographic as well. Let's see. As it turns out, people's peak earning years also appear to be their peak debt years. That's almost counterproductive. People between the ages of 45 and 54 reported the highest levels of debt overall, totaling 134,600. Those in the 35 to 44, we rock. We carry the second largest amount at 133,100. So there's a $1,500 difference in our debt between those that make a lot more money than us and us. Under 35 is 67,000. 55 to 64 is 108,000. 65 to 74 is 66,000. 75 and up is 34,500. But really, once you hit 65, what's the point of life? So there's not really much of a point to rack up debt. I joke. But those are the numbers so far for age demographics. So basically, anyone between the ages of 35 and 54, those are the best years that you could work and accumulate the most wealth. And it's also the same period of time that we're racking up historical debt to counteract any wealth that we may accumulate.
And we're supposed to like this shit.
Yay, capitalism.
I had somebody like at the grocery store. You know, I walk in, hey Steve, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh, another day in paradise. I was like, that's what they tell me, so I don't grab a pitchfork. And fucking like 8 people started cracking up, right? Because they're like, yeah.
But here's the thing: is we all know this. We all know this, and yet only a few of us decide to say anything or do anything about it. That's the frustrating part. You can live without this stress. You could live a life that doesn't have this constant fear of bankruptcy and being homeless and being without hanging over your head just like this far over it at any given moment. You can live that life.
So I'm going to throw a couple of different things at you with regard to that. One, that is intentional. Perpetual fear, perpetual debt, limited education, a dollar amount as to who gets the better education, a zip code system as to who gets the best pre-college education. That's 100% by design. I think that is also part of a push into transhumanism.
Okay. Go further. Elaborate.
The deliberate desensitization that everyone has experienced since the dawn of the internet. What we have all been exposed to, how we see study after study come out to where kids are getting jaded earlier, disconnected earlier, more and more and more, not just depressed, but so confused about what it is to be a person that they're like, fuck it, I'm not only non-binary, but I identify as a fucking squirrel. You know? Like I am otherkin. Hear me.
But couldn't we argue that's an evolution in human psychology, though?
So what I'm saying, though, is that kind of desensitization, that kind of like apparent isolation, where you're only alive when you're on your social media or in your game or whatever, where you only connect to people by typing, and your typing isn't even words anymore, it's just a series of fucking pictures. That is part of a deliberate push towards transhumanism, towards merging with an artificial intelligence that then has fucking more control than we do over who we are and what we do. Didn't think we were going there.
There's literally nothing I can say to that. I'm just like, okay. I don't think you're wrong. I just think that's about as dark as an outlook as 2015, all of human civilization coming to a screeching halt. Sometimes I'm a sarcastic, witty, intelligent guy, but there's points where I'm just like, well, fuck.
I mean, come on, dude. It's not like you're going to be able to smoke and have a drum circle in Jeff Bezos' rotating columns.
Who says he would let our asses on in the first place?
Well, you gotta have fucking slave labor. We used to joke about this, man. Like
South Park did a whole thing on that.
before Sorry to Bother You came out, we used to joke about fucking Jeff Bezos is going to have fucking prime fucking living centers where you go from your prime sleeping quarters to your fucking prime transportation cylinder to your prime job, where you eat in the prime cafeteria and then fucking go back to your fucking prime sleeping quarters, and like that's your fucking life.
And then the whole thing on that, man. It was
and then
great.
Boots Riley comes out with Sorry to Bother You, and that's exactly what the fucking company is.
That was such a great movie. That movie was absolutely amazing. And the South Park episode dealing with Jeff Bezos and Amazon doing the same thing. It was fantastic. It was spot on. And that was coming from two libertarians. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Well, it's easy to hate Jeff Bezos. The guy looks like fucking Lex Luthor.
Oh, but he has such awesome dirty talk. Let's see.
I missed all of that on purpose. I did.
Hold on. Just talk. I want to share some of his sexual prowess.
Really, man? Because I don't care enough.
You know what?
I really don't. He's a fucking oligarch. We should be fucking surrounding his house.
Oh, I
fucking
no disagreement. But anytime I can mock one of these cock stains, I'm going to. Let's see. Jeff Bezos' dirty talk to Lauren Sanchez. Let's see.
Is Lauren Sanchez's Anthony Weiner's new fucking screen handle?
I don't. That would be great because what is it? Carlos Danger. She is kind of hot. I'm throwing
Carlos
it out there.
Danger.
I get it. All right. So let's see. And it was the Inquirer that blew this wide open. That's sad. God damn it! Give me all that hot stuff. Oh,
so speaking of indentured servitude, Celeste Inman, hang on real quick, Jay. The one bright spot to Jeff Sessions no longer being Attorney General is that William Barr has not been on the record for wanting to bring back debtors prison and fucking work camps.
Oh, the moment that happens, then we need to pick up the pitchforks and torches.
Well, Sessions was openly advocating for it, and I was trying to like point people to that, like, hey,
right. Let's see. Bezos might as well have sent Sanchez random lines from Goodnight Moon. Your energy and ideas and confidence and spirit turn me on. I love you, alive girl. Now, I've heard of a lot of weird fetishes in my time, but I've never come across anyone who gets aroused by confidence. Let's see. Alive girl. This guy is so out of touch with humanity that he can't even, hit on anybody in a proper way. It's, you know what? I want to get a little drunk with you tonight, not falling down, just a little drunk. I want to talk to you and plan with you. I basically want to be with you. Then I want to fall asleep with you and wake up tomorrow and read the paper with you and have coffee with you. Fuck, I've got a boner right now from that. I'm just saying. This erection is like inspired because, you know what? I just wanted a woman to tell me that she just wants to wake up and read the paper with me and plan.
I'd hit it. I don't know. I mean,
he's a fucking robot or something. There's something seriously wrong with that.
Okay, so yeah, he is, dude. Did you see the fucking cover of the magazine too, where they had like Jeff or fucking Mark Zuckerberg on it, and then they had the code next to it, like fucking smile, grab water, whatever, that kind of thing. Oh my god. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying that my favorite Sam Tripoli joke is that Barbara Bush's vagina is basically a portal for lizard people. I'm not saying that I believe that, but damn, it's a good joke.
Holy shit!
But if you look really close at Mark Zuckerberg, man, he does not look human.
But he paid for that San Francisco hospital that they advertised the shit out of there. Is it
Yeah.
SF General? The Mark Zuckerberg? Whatever. Oh my God. Those two twats. They should have a TV show of their own.
Oh, did you see where Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton are starting a production company?
Oh, I'm looking it up right now.
Did you see that? And what was your fucking thing that you wanted to talk about? I forgot.
That is a good question.
Your frivolous, what, your moment of frivolity?
It might just be this here in a second. Let's see. This is from Bloomberg. Oh, this is going to be fucking priceless. Forming a production company to pursue film and television projects, making a foray into Hollywood after decades in the public eye, yada, 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 jerk off, jerk off, jerk off. With Steven Spielberg to produce a show. That series, The Woman's Hour, is an adaptation of a book about activists who fought to earn women the right to vote. Okay, nothing wrong with that. I'm cool with that. The Clintons are following the footsteps of the Obamas. Former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle created a production company, Higher Ground Productions. They have a deal with Netflix. First set of shows includes the adaptation of Michael Lewis's book about federal bureaucracy. That's going to be fucking super sexy. Coming from the Obama's production company, we're going to do a whole thing on federal bureaucracy. And we're going to talk about the ins and outs and how many times you need triplicated pieces of paper to get anything to happen. Okay, so what I wanted to touch on, besides this stupidity, Clinton's production company. What the actual fuck? There's Tommy Wiseau's The Room. There's the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's these really horribly made and produced movies with acting that reminds me of a third grade production of Gone with the Wind. And yet people flock to these things in mass to experience it. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding humanity in any way. But this one really throws me off because if you've ever watched The Room, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I expect people to like burn me for this, I don't care. You know what I'm talking about. There movies that wasted money to put something on film. And I'm really perplexed, and maybe people in the audience can help me out. Why do we enjoy shit? Like, we watch reality TV, it's nothing but shit. There's nothing of value that comes from reality TV. We have these things like The Room, again, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Name any of the other cult classic movies that just are absolute rubbish in their time and still rubbish today. They don't hold up. And yet people will go to midnight showings and they'll get dressed up. Is it just the experience of doing it, or do they find some value in this waste of creative space? Help me understand.
I vaguely know what you're talking about when you talk about The Room. We talked about this before we went live.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to the Rocky Horror Picture Show as a production. I've been to it more than once because I was trying to get laid.
Attaboy.
And it worked. I went to gay bingo with my baby's mom out in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
For not for the specific reason of getting laid, but because it was mommy dearest night and I knew that I was going to get laid. Gay bingo, by the way, is fucking awesome. If you ever get a chance to go experience gay bingo. But also go experience a Rocky Horror Picture Show because fuck you, Jason, because it's fucking awesome.
It's
all right,
fucking shit.
Look, dude, it's going to a show. It's going to a show.
But it's.
I'm not saying that you've got to get dressed up.
Watching paint dry. Watching paint dry could be considered a show.
Sure. But also, I will not stand idly by and allow Tim Curry to be disparaged.
It's not Tim Curry. You know I love Tim Curry. Tim Curry is a brilliant actor. He's got great comedic timing. Nothing against him. And I like Susan Sarandon. She looked hot, during that time frame. But at the end of the day, what in the actual fuck was all that nonsense about?
Drugs. And when you get dressed up and you go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, you are more than likely drunk and on drugs. And it is fun to experience drunk and on drugs. All right? That's exactly why you would go to a concert, or it's exactly why you would eat a fucking fistful of mushrooms and go to an amusement park.
But have you watched that movie sober?
Why would you do that?
I did it at the time.
I'll tell you what, I listened to the music sober or just stoned.
The music's comical. Don't get me wrong.
And there's
but the movie
a
is
punk
shit.
album that's just random punk bands that do the soundtrack to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
But what's
And it's
the
great,
attraction
dude.
to it?
You what?
What's the attraction? I don't get the storyline is just fucking absurd.
Yes.
But it's not absurd in a good way.
To you, art is subjective.
Yeah, true. I give you that one. But come on. Am I the only person in America who's pointing this out?
Are you familiar with the Trauma films? Toxic Avenger or fucking like Teenage Cat Girls and Heat and all that kind of shit?
No.
Like really bad cult horror films
Some
from
real B-movie
back in the
material?
day. Pardon?
Some real B-movie material?
Oh, no. Dig deeper. Like, go slide down that grade scale.
Are we talking like early Friday the 13th?
but just like next to no budget and fucking surf Nazis must die, that kind of thing.
All Nazis must die, but especially the surf Nazis.
Bro, I mean, it's just like it's bad. It's one of those things. It's like they fucking went all in on this ridiculous experiment, and like it became a cult classic, or it became a series of cult, like Rob Zombie movies and shit like that, man. It exists because somebody presented it and people are like, holy fuck, that's nuts, I'm coming back. You know, because whatever it's touching in you, it's going to do that, or it's not made to be like, well, you know, yeah, I'll it's not like,
well, I'm curious because I'm dead inside.
What kind of genre of film do I want to compare this? Like the fucking like any kind of like Oscar caliber movie. 90% of the country doesn't give a fuck what's in an Oscar movie, but they'll go and they'll have an opinion on it. That's not what Trauma's for. That's not what Rocky Horror's for. It's for people to either fucking absolutely go nuts over or absolutely hate.
So it's like the Caligula effect.
Pardon?
It's the Caligula effect. What was that movie that was deemed a pornography?
Caligula.
Was it Caligula?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that makes sense to me.
Well, Playboy produced it.
Right. Or was it a Hustler?
Might have been Hustler. I don't know.
It was because Playboy had quote unquote tasteful, and I think that movie was just fucking bananas. But I didn't have any real issue with it. And Rocky Horror, I don't have an issue with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't understand because it's not particularly good. So, like, for me, it's like, why the glob on? Why the glob on with movies like The Room? The Room is literally sit there and watch that movie for 10 minutes, and you'll understand why I'm so baffled.
I get it, dude, but people are going to find distraction where, like, one way or another. And the Rocky Horror Picture Show presents a fucking great distraction. You can dump your brain out and forget that you hate your job, or your commute sucks, or your fucking rent just went up, or fucking milk is now, just $6 a gallon everywhere. You forget all that shit. Gas is $4.29. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't. It's a football. Bread and circuses, man. We're going to find a way to entertain ourselves, or we're going to fucking kill ourselves, or the people next to us. And the people next to us are normally not the people that are creating the fear and stress and debt in our lives.
Okay. You win. That makes sense now. It's just been something that's bothered me for the last 24 hours. This like revival of The Room, and then people going to this And you just sit back and you're all like, are we really that out of ideas? Are we out of that creativity? Do we lack that we have to have something that's so banal and absurdist?
Yeah,
That's
it's
the only way we can be
escapism,
entertained.
it's detachment, it's running away, it's allowing yourself to care about nothing, because caring about the shit that you would really need to care about will require so much more effort than
Okay,
what you are willing to put into it or what you think you are capable of.
that's I mean, that makes sense to me.
And I
This is the
hate on
first
people that
person,
watch reality TV. I watch hockey.
right?
I watch fucking, tinfoil hat with Sam Tripoli. I watch fucking
Shout out to Sam.
yeah. Hey Sam. But I mean, I've got escapes. I listen to my friends' shows and shit like that. I go fuck off into the woods, or I go shoot guns, or there's escapes that I have that fucking are it's self care, man. Like, and I'm not saying that reality TV is a form of self care. I think that the data goes against that in terms of what it does to your fucking brain, but the desire to do it is a desire for self care. There's people that can't distinguish
Right,
what.
right. I don't disagree whatsoever. But since you've explained it in that method, that makes a lot more sense to me. It really does. Because for me, for the longest time, I thought it was just another stupid thing people were putting above things that matter. Now that you've explained it, that it's something of a release because of all the shit that piles up on a person, and you literally don't have to think when you're watching those. You don't, and that's not an insult. It's just it is what it is. You're in the moment. You're experiencing it frame by frame. You're not thinking about the things that you brought up. So okay, that makes sense to me. But it's the movie still sucked.
And let's be perfectly clear about this too. I mean, it's called television programming for a fucking reason. The people that air television shows have a fucking agenda, and if that agenda is part of a broader agenda of population control, reality TV fits into that fucking paradigm there. It
It
does.
feeds into materialism, hardcore.
Well, not only that, but it occupies space in their brain where other energy could go,
Yeah,
other
yeah,
thought could go, you
yeah.
know, caring about that person that you don't know that is getting paid to fucking act like an absolute piece of human garbage on television, presented as live and
Real.
unscripted, even though we're 25 or 30 years into it and you fucking know better, it's professional
It's like
wrestling.
getting upset
The
when somebody
government's
says the WWE is fake. We
yeah.
know better. I still watch it from time to time. I know it's not real. But at the
And that's
same
how I
time,
feel
what do you,
about like a presidential debate or a fucking press conference.
yeah,
Um,
perfect.
but with reality TV, it's one of those things to where the people that are behind it do not have pure or benevolent or even purely just profit motives. Like, it's part of the dumbing down of America. It's part of making us divided against each other. It's part of fucking outrage culture and fucking call out culture and everything that's fucking uh, intentionally fucking divisive programming.
Well, say what you will about Aaron Sorkin. I get that. He's Here's the one thing that we can't argue, that he does write smart. And I don't find that to be on TV very frequently, where it grabs my intellectual side and I'm saying, okay, yeah, that's true. That's true. That works. That would happen in this situation, where they write from a intelligent area as opposed to the dumbing down bullshit that we see today. Do you think if they incorporated, and I'm not saying it has to be Aaron Sorkin, but Sorkin like writing and production, do you think that might help push up the national tenor in debate and
No,
discussions? And
because we would all have this fucking imaginary picture of an egalitarian social meritocracy
mhm,
that doesn't fucking exist.
right,
And then we would then be led to be disappointed and have to start being disenfranchised and fucking distrustful all over again. So no, I don't. I think the
but dumbing down is just keeping people occupied at this point, and they're not bothering to do anything while the rest of society crumbles.
But are you gonna have a high-minded conversation about a fucking imaginary fucking Aaron Sorkin like fucking capitalist egalitarian fucking society? Or are you gonna fucking write it like, oh hey, by the way, the world's about to fucking end, and here's how we fucking fix it? Like, what do you and are you delivering that? If you're not delivering that message to academia, you're not gonna raise the fucking collective IQ of the country by fucking talking smart on TV. You're gonna turn people off.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing too. And this is coming from my dating world. Um, there's a lot of people that when I go out with, the first thing they bring up is, really smart things like that, and they're like, I'm dumb or whatever. And I tell them all you have to do is just read a little bit more, take 5 minutes a day, be inquisitive, etc. But the thing I run into with most of these people is how dumb they think they are and how easy it would be to fix that. I don't think a show or a series of shows is going to raise the national IQ. I think stop accepting the fact that you think you're dumb, or if you are dumb, try to remedy that. Don't waste it on reality TV. Don't waste it on this other bullshit. Fix it.
Well, here's the thing, man, and I can speak to this because I'm living it right now. We've got a kid that's just going out of 8th grade, and there's
about to go in the Shark Tank.
Yeah, and the thing about that is that where what at my fucking counter jockey gig, I talk to mosquitoes. Well, I don't talk to mosquitoes. Obviously, there are mosquitoes. But I talk to a lot of kids or kids' parents who are all experiencing the exact same thing inside the school system, and it's immediate neglect by the staff if there's a hint of perceived failure.
Mm-hmm.
And once my point to that is once like you've been branded that way, it's going to affect your psyche. And if you have to go back into that system year after year after year with not only that stigma attached to you by the staff, but your own mindset going into it, you're going to be disinclined to having someone tell you, oh, just go learn more. Like you tried that, and so
it goes beyond just learn more. You have to cultivate. There are people who are curious about things, construction, knife creation, blacksmithing, whatever. They're interested about physics. They're interested about water. They're interested. Humanity is interested in a
but
lot
there's
of
not
shit.
really an avenue for the average person to go, let alone the average kid to go, in order to be able to explore that in a way that they'll be able to thrive at it or get a full understanding of
It
it.
doesn't need to be a life choice to do as a career, but just satiate the curiosity. Create some curiosity. Ask questions. Think about things rather than just numbing out to the Real Housewives of Ass Clown County or some dipshit in Atlanta or some dipshit in New York or some dipshit in California.
To be honest, that's why there's such a thing as like wine and painting. And I'm for that.
I thought it was to torture us.
Huh?
I thought it was to torture boyfriends nationwide.
No, dude, wine and painting is a great idea. You're not watching reality TV. You're not watching fucking Rachel Maddow. You're not watching fucking Sean
They want
Hannity.
me to paint whatever it is. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna do Starry Night tonight. I want to.
Why are you going to wine and painting?
Huh?
Why are you going to wine and painting?
Just like you go to Rocky Horror Picture Show to get laid. Okay. I'm trying to get laid. All right. Real talk.
Then fucking Bob Ross that shit up, dude, and like go have some happy accidents, my friend.
I got a happy dick right here. Yeah, could be. All right, I'm going to wrap up from this end, but contingent upon tomorrow, I think we might have created a topic to discuss there in that conversation that we had. I think talking about raising the national tenor and discourse, and what ways we could actually do it that would be effective and not insulting to those that don't know better. That would be an interesting topic to have.
I can run with that. Also, like, do you have any idea like what time you're available? We could talk about that later. I never got to connect with Pat the Burner today. He had like all kinds of fucking vehicle trouble and whatnot. So we're definitely going to do a thing tomorrow. You can be in on that if you're around. If you're not around, Pat and I.
Yeah, if I'm around, I definitely would love to talk with Pat and everything else too. And once I get to Sacramento, see if I can help him out in the vehicle department.
But yeah, at any rate, yeah, go if you need to. I will probably hang out for a few with the chat crew if they have anything they want to fucking throw at me. Now would be a great time to do that.
Yeah, contribute. Throw out any questions, comments, concerns, please. Love reading them. Love hearing back from you. Love feedback. Love it when you guys get engaged. And so, I want to do the obligatory things since we're on YouTube. Go to @SlowNewsDay for sure for any updated information.
Show.
What's that?
@SlowNewsDay Show.
@SlowNewsDay Show. My bad. Then there's always @the Jason Carney. Steve, what's your handle?
Slow News Day. I only have a Twitter account for the show.
And you got Instagram, don't you? Admit it. You got Insta.
I do not have an Instagram account. I should. I should have an
Snap. I know you got Snap. I can see you doing those little dog ears of the tongue. I know you do Snap.
You know what, man? Snapchat has never turned a profit, yet they've been around for like, 7 or 8 years now. That is purely facial recognition software. That is purely an intelligence agency front. All the fucking little filters or things just aid in facial recognition. That how do you look when you're older? How do you look as a fucking clown? All that shit, dude. How do you look with a fucking, what's unique about your eyes when we put this ski mask over it?
And people fall for that shit.
Filter, the rob a bank filter.
But yeah, @the Jason Carney at Instagram, Paramcorn on Twitter. Go crazy, sound off. We want to hear from you. If there's topics that you want to talk about, let us know so we can discuss it too. This is just as much your show as it is ours. So
also, if you can draw Jason sick of looking at the exploding television, so send some shit our way.
Please. All right, guys. You have a good night. Talk to you later, brother.
Later, Jason. You take care, man. Thank you for hopping in. Jason Carney. I dig it when he gets to hang out. Gonna see who's still hanging out right here. What's up, Celeste? What's up, Mystery? What's up, Dingo? I don't know if Chris is still here or not. But yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything particular that I wanted to get to today that I forgot. I would like to point out that Simone Sanders is a fucking idiot. In case you don't know who Simone Sanders is, she was Bernie Sanders' I think campaign manager last time around, and she quit, turned like complete cynical rat fucking smear merchant, got a cable news gig out of it and is now a senior advisor for Joe Biden's campaign. Over the last several days, there's been a trending hashtag on the Twitters. It's no middle ground, and it's because Joe Biden came out and said he would like to see middle ground on climate change, which, no. It doesn't seem like if the extinction of humanity is what happens and not dying is the other thing that happens. Finding middle ground on that appears to be some sort of half-life. At any rate, Bernie Sanders got to get his soundbite in, said there is no middle ground on climate change, and Simone Sanders comes out and says, middle ground? I think not. Now, apparently she missed what her boss had said. Apparently she doesn't pay attention to her boss. I would imagine that if you're a female and you work for Joe Biden, you would want to at least be out of, sniffing, if not groping distance. So maybe it would behoove you to skip a few events and just kind of work from home. But somehow she missed that. She missed what her boss said, and she tweeted this out, and she's rightfully been getting the shit kicked out of her for it. I get being tone deaf. I do. Not because I personally am tone deaf, but I've experienced enough of it to understand why it happens. But to directly miss the fucking joke like that, Jesus fucking mosquitoes. It is proof that working for a smuggerant boss will make you make smuggerant statements. Smuggerant is a great fucking word, and I wish more people would use it. I'm gonna grab a fucking sweatshirt and dodge these mosquitoes for a little bit longer. Word. Chris Walker. All my friends think Bernie will get screwed again, and he is compromised. His silence on Assange speaks volumes. I personally think Bernie and or his family got threatened by the Clintons. No upstate raider, as far as I know. Simone Sanders hasn't responded to a single bit of the pushback. To your point, Chris, I think I've been pretty clear on that. I don't think Bernie will get through the primary cleanly. And I've made the point here several times now that if he does, I don't think we can trust him. But there's just a litany of shit that speaks to him being not the savior of the people, but the savior of the Democratic Party. He genuinely believes in the fucking process, and that alone it is enough to worry anyone who's been paying attention for any amount of time, regardless of where you align politically. If you, or at least on the political compass, you know what I mean. When you fundamentally believe in something as fucking broken by design as the United States government, the processes that fucking they put, the process of the system. Yeah, Chris, you're compromised is a good word for that. I think he believes a lot of what he says, and that's also worrying. What's even more worrying, at least to me, Celeste, they showed Bernie the angle of the JFK shooting that we've never seen before. That is one of the most classic Bill Hicks bits ever. Back into the left. Shit. I just want to talk some Bill Hicks. Well, yeah, no, of course Bernie didn't want to end up like Nader, but here's the thing: in order to run as a third-party candidate, you still have to be registered on the ballot fucking before the general election starts in a lot of states. So if he's not registered as a third-party candidate early out, there's just no validity to that argument. It doesn't fucking work like that. Where I was headed with that though was you're starting to see the people who are diehard Bernie Sanders supporters like stake their claim over the primary, shout down anybody who has anything to say about any other candidate, be it Tulsi Gabbard or Mike Gravel or God forbid fucking any of the fucking rest of the goddamn schmucks. And bring up things like because of the number of candidates, you don't get awarded a delegate unless you get 15% of the vote, which is good information to pass out there. It is. But their point being, don't vote for anyone but Bernie Sanders and only Bernie Sanders, because if he doesn't get 15% of the vote because Tulsi got 3% of it, then it'll be Tulsi's fault and it'll be your fault. Shit like that, dude. And I don't know how this far down into the process, especially after what happened, what we all witnessed with our own fucking eyes, from the time that Bernie announced until the fucking speech he gave at the convention, where he did come out looking a little bit roughed up. You're right about that, Chris. If you look at that, and then you look at all the concessions he's made since, and that he's essentially become not just a sheepdog for a party that doesn't represent us, but a sheepdog for like genuine labor movement and the fucking actual block between a genuine labor movement and its fucking effectiveness against fucking companies like Walmart or McDonald's or Amazon. Whole Foods workers were getting ready to strike. Amazon workers were getting ready to strike. They were striking internationally, and Bernie Sanders swooped in and said, "Oh, look, you get $15 an hour now. Yeah, sure, it comes out of your bonuses, but I saved the day. No strikes." And he'll cross a picket line when there's already a strike. He will. He'll support strikers. He fucking, again, believes in the process, but he's prevented that process from taking place a few times. It's disconcerting to say the least. That's funny. You guys know where I sit on Tulsi. I'm not gonna like throw any extra shade at her when there are so many other terrible candidates that are also there to siphon votes away from Bernie Sanders like they're fucking supposed to, and And B, they're just flat the fuck out worse. Like, Tulsi Gabbard has at least fucking brought forth legislation that gets people thinking, if they have time to fucking take a look at something like, what do you mean there's a Stop Funding Terrorists Act? Um, I think people need to go out of their way to compare Tulsi Gabbard's Off Act to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal, because the Off Act is actual binding legislation. It's not perfect, but it's way the fuck better than a non-binding resolution to form a committee to talk about some fucking corporate sanitized legislation. Tulsi, I like because Mystery said it was a melanoma removed from his face just before he handed the election to Hillbilly. A year later, when he had another lesion on his face in a different plate. I don't doubt for a moment that politicians and the people that rent them aren't capable of fucking putting a couple fucking snipers on Bernie's family and showing him a live video of it right before he goes out to the podium at the convention. I don't. If that's the case, it worked. You know, he went out and talked about Russiagate. He went out and fucking did over 40 events on behalf of Hillary Clinton. He did that stupid fucking Unity tour where they tried to pretend like he and Tom Perez were buddies. He won't say Julian Assange's name. I mean, he's done a lot of really troubling things that would make him appear to be a compromised individual. So you can't discount that. I don't think that you get to be in a place where you're running for president unless you have an obvious death wish or you're fully fucking bought. I don't think Bernie Sanders has an obvious death wish. If he did, he already had a chance to fucking make that happen. And what he chose to do was 40 some events for Hillary Clinton and fucking betraying everything he campaigned on out loud in front of Democratic paymasters over and over and over and over and over. And for that, got fucking railed on by corporate media for fucking flying around on a plane. Democrats love identity politics, so having a minority woman that served like Tulsi should be perfect if we didn't live in a cartoon, maybe, but she committed the ultimate sin in 2015 by stepping down as vice chair and citing a rigged debate schedule as the reason that she was comfortable with staying out in public. And she got threatening letters of withdrawing support and threatening letters for all manner of other shit from all kinds of DNC figures, all kinds of consultants. People told her they wouldn't work with her, they wouldn't co-sign her legislation. Whatever they thought she was going to be, whatever she went into Congress as, is not what they expected. You know, what she did then was enough. Like, she could be the Council on Foreign Relations fucking like long awaited fucking gift to finally get someone who appears to be a peace candidate elected president and fucking get that new world order ratcheted up. Get that fucking, unified global empire going. She could be. And because she pissed off the short-sighted fucks at the DNC who don't get the big picture information handed down to them because they're short-sighted fucks, they went and fucking smeared her for it. I don't know, man. I, I don't know. So it benefits, yeah, it doesn't benefit the voters to vote in a rigged election, Chris. Your comment about Devin Nunes. Um, it Bernie's not going to speak about how the primary was stolen. He's really not. Like when he's asked about it now, and he's asked about when he's asked about it, it's taken as fact that the 2016 primary was stolen. Like when he was on Fox News, they were like, "So yeah, so if when you get rigged again, how you going to deal with that?" And every time he's asked that now, and he's asked that a lot because they want to get everyone used to the fact that it's probably going to happen again. Uh, he always says, "Ah, well, like we're here now, and because we're here now, and I have it on authority from the DNC that they're not going to do any of that this time. We're going to run a campaign to win a campaign, and that's it." Like, he dismisses it outright. He, for whatever reason, was unwilling to do that the first time. I don't know why he would be willing to do it this time. It's one of those things where enough people would have to recognize it, get up off their couch, and decide to go do something about it. Not necessarily on his behalf, but for themselves. Which people talk big on the fucking internet, but there does seem to be a growing sentiment of fucking, we're going to be ready for him to get screwed over this time. Dude, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is there's like not enough words to describe the kind of just criminal fucking piece of shit that woman is, and what she's done to Florida, and what she's done to my friend Tim, and fucking and I don't even know if we'll ever get the full picture about how she stole those elections, what the Awan brothers have done, what they were really up to, um, how they could possibly still be walking around free, how it was fucking Debbie Wasserman Schultz's brother who was the judge when the Awan brothers case was heard. Who's still trying to work within the system? Celeste, Bernie? Because if that's true, yeah. Um, and I know that nobody outside of like Jared Beck wants to paint Bernie Sanders as fucking like in on the problem. Um, if you believe in a system that is designed to fucking crush the average person, we want different systems. You and I want different systems. But you and I see the merits of that deliberately broken system very, very, very differently. And I know it always fucking falls down to, well, who else are you gonna vote for? And I would like to say, why do we need to vote when we can fucking march? You know, and again, yeah, if you think you can overtake your city council, dude, please, by all means, go ahead and fucking try it. Just when we go to the halls of power with a list of fucking demands, I want you to leave and come outside and join us. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's fun. I dig it. Much love to you guys. Take care of yourselves. This has been Slow News Day. I am Steve Boykinen. Good luck to us all.